Thanks, Bobby, and
Yeah.
thank you for inviting me to talk with you. I'm I'm humbled by the experience because I have a very just I'm just a guy. So
I
and
love that. A guy, just a guy,
just a guy. Yeah,
and
just
I'm
have
just
a regular life. The thing that I'm most active with right now is I've had an opportunity to lead a Order of the Sacred Earth pod. And the Order of the Sacred Earth is part of a larger group that was founded by Matthew Fox um, and Skylar Wilson a few years ago. And we locally here in Orange County, we get together as a small group. We have a leadership team, I like to call us, and we discuss our relationship with the earth, the environment, and relating that the intersection of our personal cosmology, our personal belief systems, and how that impacts our relationship with the natural world. Um,
so what's your role? What got you into this? What was the kind of impetus for you to do this?
well, it, it kind of just started out that I was attending the a Center for Spiritual Living in Mission Viejo in Spirit. And I had been at a workshop with Matthew Fox, and he had mentioned that he had had a vision, a dream about the Order of the Sacred Earth. And in his tradition, which is Catholicism, he's no longer a part of that tradition in the same way. But he said that in times of chaos, a new order would arise. And he said at this time with the Earth, there's a lot of chaos and disruption to our planet. And he said it's time for a new order to arise. And through his vision, it was the Order of the Sacred Earth. And he just mentioned this, and Reverend Sandy Moore just loved the idea. And she got some people together, and they did an initial get together. It was a winter solstice celebration. And I just showed up to the celebration, and I hadn't been included in any of the planning. And I just, after this celebration, I said, "Hey, I want to be part of this." And she said, "Great, you lead it." And that was it. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what to do. And so I've been learning along the way, and there have been people who have been very gracious to join me and allow us to come together and allow me to facilitate our coming together. And I've been doing that for about 3 years now. Initially we started doing celebrating the solstices and the equinoxes as creating ritual ceremony around that to help people connect with the natural world. And since then, it's evolved into people starting to really dig into some of the tougher issues of our time, some of the things that are hard to discuss. Our group currently is talking a lot about plastic and plastic pollution and our relationship to plastic and what it's doing to our environment and what we can do as individuals to be impactful, positive agents for transformation.
Wow. So what's your sort of intention? Go a little deeper into your intention as how the group will affect sort of that what's happening in our world today.
Well, from our Science of Mind teaching, my understanding is that we take on personal responsibility for our lives and our actions within the world. And that originates with how we're thinking as individuals. And through meditation and prayer work, we do have inspired action. So as a group, one element of this is to become aware of yourself and your personal participation in how you're interacting in the world. What do you believe about the world itself, the earth itself, this larger universe? and how your thoughts, how your values, understanding that, how do you act in the world? And if you see that there's disharmony or discord between how you're acting in the world with what your values and your truth is, and I mean the capital T truth, then how do you begin to shift what you're doing and behaving in the world? And it's really can be overwhelming in our current climate and in our current environment, when you start to look at the scale of environmental degradation that is occurring, it can be overwhelming as an individual. But as we come together, we're able to support one another as individuals to inspire one another to better action.
So when I think about just my own practice, what I do matters. Even if it might be small, what I do matters.
Absolutely.
So would you say that in your group, sort of, there's a collective consciousness that's growing that you've both been affected by, you've all been affected by, as well as you are affecting?
I think we're getting to that place. Yeah. And it's almost like this awareness that's starting to happen is as I mentioned earlier, as an individual, it's very hard to feel like you're impacting anything.
Yeah.
And when you get together with other people and you realize they're going through the same struggles you are, and they might have a slightly different focus. I mentioned our particular group has been really focused on we became focused on plastic. It just
Right.
like I allowed something to bubble up, and that's what started the conversation. We have a regular conversation when we get together about plastic. How am I using it, and how is somebody else using it? How are they using it in their lives? What did they learn about it this week in terms of anything from consuming it to disposing it to the manufacture of it, the impact, etc. So it's coming together. And I think you mentioned earlier to me about as a circle coming together and uniting with one another, that we can inspire each other as individuals to better action.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be very simple. And I think it's allowing people to start where they are and not thinking that we have to change everything immediately, even though we need to take great steps right now. Is you got to start where you are. And that might mean recognizing one of the members of the group, she recognized that she likes yogurt, and she was buying all those little plastic yogurt containers. And she said, this is really wasteful. And said, okay, you know what? I've got the time. I'm going to learn how to make my own yogurt. So that's what she does now. She no longer buys little plastic containers of yogurt. She started making her own yogurt. She shared the recipe with us. And that was within the context of her experience. She said, this is one thing that I can do. And she became very aware how she was going to the grocery store and using plastic bags to put the vegetables in. And so decided, what is one thing that I can do that's different? So it's starting and sharing that. Another woman in the group started making her own cosmetics, like moisturizers and things. So that's something that she decided she had time to do. But then she also taught the rest of the group where we can go, and if we want to buy products like that, we can buy them in bulk. So we don't have to go and buy little individual plastic bottles for everything. There are stores that will now allow you to fill up your own container, and so you can reuse it.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the beginnings of the small steps towards it. And those little things have led us to a place where we're starting to really look at being able to look at the really tough stuff, that scary stuff where you do get overwhelmed. kind of start to wade into that water. And also within that, understanding that this is part of my belief system that I have, that I need these things, or I did, where does my desire for them begin and end? Where did that thought that I want that comes from? And is that part of the greater truth? Is that part of God's truth? Is that a human desire that's been created in me that I picked up? And working with meditation and with prayer to just become more aware of actions.
When you look at your journey, your spiritual journey, and now you're looking at how spiritually, how the environment fits in that. What do you think your journey, I mean, it wasn't just a Matthew Fox thing, obviously, you can probably look. So tell me how it got to that, because not everybody that walks out of Matthew Fox, something like that, would say, hey, I'm going to do it. So.
How far back do you want me to go?
You tell me. I think the thing that when you look back and you go, yeah, that affected, or was my, that was the place when it really hit me, or, what comes up for you?
I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine with Jesse. Okay. I'm going to take you there. And because you're absolutely right. I didn't just wander into a Matthew Fox workshop and, how did I get there? And it was just out of the blue. It wasn't like that at all for me. I've always had a sense all my life that there was something greater outside of this physical existence that we have. And like many people in my adult life, I got to a place where things just working. I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing, that society told me I was supposed to, get the job and, be responsible, and everything will just work out just peachy keen. And it wasn't. And I was miserable. And that through, I think, just my misery, mm-hmm. I started looking for comfort. I wanted the misery that was a new way of living. Mm-hmm. And that came gradually through some, I guess what you'd call new age teachers like Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, and Esther Hicks, the teachings of Abraham. And that's where I was introduced to the idea of change your thinking, change your life. And when I came out to California, I is through some a good friend of mine introduced me to Centers for Spiritual Living, and that's where I really started to dive into what's the deeper part of change your thinking, change your life. How deep you can go within that teaching, and how broadly you can be with that, how you can expand with that. So as my life began to transform using the tools, that I became aware that it's not just about me. Mm. And I think in our society, there's a lot of focus about me. It's about me, and how I succeed in the world. What's in it for me? And recognizing that we're part of a community. I'm part of a community, and that what I do impacts the community, and that I can choose through my actions whether I have a positive impact or not. And as I got more conscious about what I was thinking about, what I was feeling, it just brought more awareness to my larger environment.
I find that not only is our culture hyper individualized, but a lot of new thought philosophies are also hyper individualized. And there's not always the sort of the bigger perspective of, yes, what I do matters for my own life, and what I do matters with others as well. And I think with some of the movements out there, like sort of what's happened in the last year, the pandemic and George Floyd, and the Black Lives Matter movement, is that there's a lot around, um, definitely my choices create my life, but other people's choices create my life too.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like, because what I heard, I'm kind of going to go somewhere with this. What I heard you say is that not only what I do matters, but I do have an effect on other people, and not just in my life, but over generations and over periods of time. And as I become more and more aware, self-aware, um, I start to see how my personal responsibility extends beyond my own life. That's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And I think just, and I'm going to go back to plastic just for a moment as an
Sure.
example, that when when you use that plastic container for your yogurt, you use it, you pitch it out, where does it go? Right. And it might end up on the other side of the world in in a country that does not have a waste management system that can handle it. It might end up in a community where it's a toxic element in that community. So it's just it we live in this big world, but we're very tightly knit together in ways that we don't even necessarily understand. And it's visible to us physically now. We can start to make those connections, but we've always been connected at that consciousness level, I
Mm-hmm.
believe as well. So that's why how we're thinking is very important. And to do that, to do those actions and that healing, that not only do we heal our past, but we are a blessing to the future and to the future generations. We're at an interesting inflection point in our history, um, and that what earlier I mentioned that this change your thinking, change your life. That there's more to it underneath it. Like it can be you can do a deep dive into that because you go into a deep dive into your consciousness. What am I really thinking? Where are those thoughts coming from? Um, and a lot of the commercialization of that teaching, um, I think a few years ago, it was like the movie The Secret and
Yeah.
some other teaching made it popularized it, was really about these superficial things or things that we need in our society, money, stuff. And when you start to talk to God, or at least for me, when I started to talk, develop my relationship with the divine creative spirit, this thing that we call life, I started to see that this physical stuff that I think I want was stuff that as a society I was much of it's stuff I was trained to want that kind of fits into this um, the larger economy,
Mm-hmm.
and to have to kind of pull back from that and say what is really divine in here, what is really sacred in here, what's really important.
When I want the stuff on the outside, it's because the stuff on the inside isn't in alignment with who I am. So if I have more peace in my life, I may still get stuff, and that's nothing wrong with stuff, but that stuff isn't what makes me happy. That stuff isn't what answers the question of how do I have peace in my life? How do I have a life that feels like it's an integrity, and um, how do I have joy, and how do I feel, love, and what are my relationships like?
Yeah, and those are beautiful questions, and they're also tough questions.
Yeah.
You have to really challenge, be willing to look at. I have to be willing to look at the things that are not so beautiful about myself. They're not so wonderful about myself, my shortcomings, my dark side, as well as um, what is sacred, what is divine, what is beautiful, what is loving that I can
Mm.
share.
So how in your world, as you've been involved in the New Thought movement in your own way, what are some of the tools that you've used as well to that has changed your life? What are the things that you've done and that you practice that have changed your life?
Well, like many people who practice, um, I have a daily meditation and prayer practice, and I do regular spiritual readings, or metaphysical texts. So that's a daily part of my life. I think if I were to share something that really transformed my life was when I started to make the connection between what I was thinking and what I was feeling,
Hmm.
and that recognizing that being able to stop myself periodically and say, "What are you thinking?" Or stopping myself periodically and recognizing what am I feeling right now. So, and that relationship of, oh, I feel like tense in my body. What am I thinking about? And
Hmm.
being able to adjust my thoughts to, okay, to relax. Or what do I need to do? Do I need to do some breathing right now to get my body to relax? Or um, what am I thinking about that's making me feel sad? So understanding that these two systems work together with one another, and that y- you can use them both to kind of adjust, and to elevate yourself, um, or not, to honor that I'm feeling really sad right now and I need to feel really sad right now, but I don't have to stay there.
How does spiritual community play in that kind of piece for you? What as a tool or as a does it?
I think it does. I think the coolest thing was, and and the way I found CSLs was through Reverend Asha, who's now up in Port Angeles. And at the time, she was in San Diego, I was in San Diego, and I was taking tango lessons, and she, her and her husband were taking tango as well, and we had developed a friendship. And she came to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to be singing at church on Sunday. You want to come hear me sing?" And my reaction, what I was thinking was like, "Go to church?" And I thought, you know, she's a friend. I can do that for I can take an hour out of my Sunday and do that. It's okay. I'll go check it out because she's a friend. I'll be a friend. And I walked into the Universal Spirit Center in San Diego, and about halfway through the service, I realized this is a whole group of people. This room is filled with people that believe what I believe. Oh my gosh, it's just like a community. Like I didn't realize I was missing this, and it's like I had been studying on my own. I had been doing readings on my own. I had made a certain level of progress on my own, and or I should say development. I'm trying to drop the word progress, but I'd done certain development on my own, and that to me that was recognizing that when people of a similar belief come together, you it amplifies it. And of course, you have to be very aware of who you're coming together and what you're amplifying.
Yeah.
But as a large group, you do that. When I get together with people, I have some friends who are Baha'i. I get together with them regularly, and I study, and I'm studying their teachings, and but we have these conversations. We're all on this spiritual path together, and we're having these conversations, and I'll learn something from somebody. They'll see it in a way that I might not have seen it, and it'll get me to thinking in another way, or it'll open up another way for me to think, and just allow me to just open up, go a little bit further. And I guess it's kind of selfish in a way, but it's kind of one of the real beautiful things about coming together with other people.
What is it you'd like to share about your journey that would make a difference, do you think, for others? What about your journey?
Start where you are. Doesn't matter where you are, just start where you are. And don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't worry about if you're making progress fast enough. If you fall down or you slip back, just get up, dust yourself off, keep moving along, and knowing that if as you take the time every day, even if it's just a minute every day, to just breathe and appreciate your breath, that life that comes in, and as you exhale it, you can come back to that at any moment in the day and allow that to expand out. And that clarity will guide you. The guidance is coming through you and wants to express itself as you. And just allow that to happen.
Wow. Yeah. Well, my friend, it's really been great to spend this time with you. Jesse, you are one of my favorite people. So thank you for having a conversation with me and with As Uncommon Conversations. And it's been great spending the time.